Okay, we are back. I'm very happy to have on the Goldstein on Gelt Show, David Holland, who is a radio show host, much like I am. He is a financial planner, in fact, much like I am. And he's even based in Florida, where I go from time to time because we have a Florida office. And the fact is, I've had the fantastic opportunity to be on his show. And one of the things I noticed when David and I were talking was not only does he have good ideas, but he asks very good questions, which I always think is really the trademark of an excellent financial advisor. So, David, I'm real honored to have you with us here today on the Goldstein on Gelt Show.
Thank you so much, Doug. It's a pleasure to be with you, and I enjoy the role reversal here where I get to be on the other side of the mic, so to speak, and talk with you about these very important planning and investment strategies people need to be thinking about.
But one of the areas that I really want to focus on, because apart from your very soothing voice, I think that you help people to reduce the stress in terms of retirement. And, one of the things that I find is as soon as I'll talk to a client about let's plan for your retirement, all of a sudden their shields go up and they tense up. How do you help them to remove the stress from the issue?
Well, you know what, Doug? It's actually the key part is, like you said, asking the right questions. And for a lot of people, retirement planning is just, they don't even know where to start. And I think that's probably the biggest thing is to start to remove some of that stress. Is they've got to get going, and they need to be thinking about where they want to be and really develop a plan to get there. That's really it. I mean, I know that sounds like an oversimplification for the listeners, but you've got to plan it, because if you don't plan it, then how are you going to get there?
All right, so let's I agree. It sounds like an oversimplification, but let's make it more complicated, which is breaking it down to the steps. So guy comes in and he says to you, David, I'm totally at wit's end. I've got this and that. I hardly even know what I have. Where should I start? What is the first thing that you're going to do?
Excellent. The first step I would take, and I think is a good place for anybody to start, is where are you right now? If I want to plan a trip to see Jerusalem, which is on the bucket list, by the way, Doug, and I want to go, how am I going to get there? Mm-hmm. Well, you can't answer that question unless I tell you where I am right now, right?
Right.
You can't tell me which plane to get on unless I say, well, I'm in Daytona Beach, Florida. Then you can tell me which plane, or you can tell me what the best route is. So the first place for anybody to start is where are you right now? Take an inventory. And, for a lot of people, this isn't as pleasant a part of the process because they don't like admitting, perhaps, that they don't have as much as they would like. In fact, I've never met a person yet who wouldn't like a little more no matter how much they've got. So where are you right now? And then we can start understanding about the things you do or how you get where you want to be, and even define the things that you can do with what you have or what you will have by the time you retire.
Okay, so let's dive into this one point. I think we're only going to cover one point in the whole conversation today. But I really I want people to walk away with something they can actually do. So just like you described, you'll tell the client, and I had the same conversation. I'll say, let's talk about what you have. And sometimes, you can see their eyes kind of glazing over, or they giggle because they don't really know. So how do you help them to make this inventory, to take this financial snapshot?
I tell you, that's an outstanding question, Doug, because what makes it difficult is people don't really have their arms around what they have. For example, I had a couple come in recently, and I think they had like 15 different accounts, and the money's all over the place. And they say, well, we feel like we're okay, but we're not really sure. So one of the things that people can do, an action step, is to get a second opinion from an experienced, qualified, and I'm sure you would agree, certified advisor to actually give them a true, independent, objective second opinion and take all of these accounts, bring them together, and analyze them as one thing. Because when you have these accounts spread out, you really don't know where you are. You're just kind of a combination of these things, but you don't have clarity. So first step, and very specifically, is to get a second opinion and understand what you've got in stocks, bonds, mutual funds, different diversification, which you and I have talked about before. Where is your money around the world? What sectors are you invested in? How well rated are your funds? What are they costing you? What are all these things? And get a really clear picture, and then you can think about what to do next. But start with that second opinion about what you have.
We're talking with David Holland, who coincidentally, in 1997, founded Holland Financial, a company that helps provide solid advice to retirees and baby boomers. And I say it's coincidental it was 1997 because, David, that was the same year that I founded Profile Investments here in Jerusalem to also give solid advice to retirees and baby boomers. So yet another parallel in what we're doing. Digging into this number one topic, which is just the first thing you do when you meet an advisor, you said you have to get to know what you have, take a snapshot of where you are today. And one of the things you brought up, which is something I see a lot, is that people often have their money all over the place. And it does help a lot. I agree with you to have a professional give a second opinion to put it all together. But I'll tell you one of the problems, and maybe I should list it as a question, but one of the problems people have is then a year later, they still have 15 accounts. And I think very early on is you want to begin to consolidate because it's just impossible for a normal person to keep track of so many things going on all over the place. Has that been your experience as well?
Absolutely. In fact, one step further, Doug, as an advisor and having done this for 20-some years, I wouldn't have 15 different accounts myself.
How could you follow it?
You can't keep track of it. And another case in point, I had a couple in not long ago that had all these various accounts, and they didn't realize, but they had like 70% of their money in one category of investing, high-yield bonds, otherwise called junk bonds, but they didn't realize they had such a large percentage because it was spread out and it was hiding in all of these various different accounts. And because it was spread out, they had no way of really getting a true measure of the risk that they were taking in their overall portfolio.
And I think when you don't know what you have and it's all scattered, you're actually a ripe target for financial scams. In fact, one of your books is called How to Get Great Advice and Avoid Financial Scams. Can you give us some tips on avoiding a financial scam?
I tell you what, Doug, is probably something that people have not paid attention to as much after, the memories have faded on the Wall Street scams and the Bernie Madoffs and all of these things that happen. But I can give the listeners a real cautionary message here, and that is if you hear these three things being described for an investment, you know that there's a good chance that it's a scam. Here they are.
Okay,
high return, liquid investment that is safe. Those three things do not come together except the most extreme circumstances. High return, principal protection or security of your money, and liquidity. If somebody tells you that, run, fly, but do not go anywhere near that. That's a big warning sign.
Right, that's for sure true. And I guess in your neck of the woods, there really are a lot of retirees. What other sorts of issues do you see arising?
It's this affinity fraud that we see where, people, try to wade their way through all the messages that are out there about where to get advice. And often where fraud and scams occur is the fraudsters use networks of people. And people say, I had a good experience with this person, and they refer their friends, and it becomes kind of a little network. And frauds know no bounds, and they've committed by all sorts of people. It's not just advisors who maybe have some bad behavior from time to time. It's other people, and people get scammed because they rely on the testimony of another person who themselves may have been scammed but just doesn't know it yet.
So what would normally people do ask for referrals. What would be a good way to find someone?
Excellent. Well, the first thing that I would recommend somebody do if they're looking for a professional they can work with is they first do some background checking. Go to the Better Business Bureau or some sort of regulatory oversight and check out the advisor first and foremost before you meet with them. And also, you can do a search. You can go, like for example, Certified Financial Planner. You can go to the website, cfp.net, do a search for an advisor in your area. And, of course, I know you have the same thing in Israel. You have the same sort of registry where people can do searches, find out about that, and then go and meet them. Go and meet with them. Show up for your appointment early. Do they have an office? How is it staffed? Go and meet with them. Interview more than one. I tell people don't just interview me, go meet with two more advisors so you can get a sense for the differences between the people. And then at some point you can certainly ask for testimonials, but let's be honest. What advisor is going to give you 3 people that are going to say bad things about you?
Mm-hmm. All right.
Right? I mean, so those only have limited value. It's really listen to your gut and pay attention to your surroundings and where the advisor is and what they're doing.
Right, and it's certainly not a question of who's going to make you the most money on your investments, because no one can promise you those returns, and the guy who does promise you is the one you should absolutely be walking out of his office. Thinking of returns, let me just close because we're nearly out of time, but one of the issues that we often see is that people are getting very close to retirement. They're in their 50s or even early 60s, and they haven't really started planning. Do you have any advice for someone in that situation? Not only that he may not have started planning, but he actually may not have really started saving seriously.
Yeah, I'm actually more concerned about the second part of that as opposed to the savings. If you're approaching retirement, and you really haven't saved a lot. There's not a whole lot of planning you can do other than to first, get yourself in gear and start putting money aside. And, life expectancies have lengthened, as you know, Doug, to just really amazing numbers of how long people are living today versus a century ago. And, people may have to work longer and to get those savings. So put as much as you can, even if it's putting it in a checking or savings or money market account and accumulating it until you have the right time. That's better than just saying, well, maybe I'll do something someday. Get the money put to the side so you have something to plan with at some point.
Yeah, I think that's really critical because there's not necessarily an investment solution to your problem, but nothing's going to help you more than just saving and putting aside money. Don't hope that you're going to find the magical stock or mutual fund that's going to make a lot of money. You just have to put aside the savings. I think that's a really important lesson. David, we're just about out of time, but tell me in the last few seconds, how can people follow you, follow your work, get your books?
Great question, Doug. Happy to answer that one. A lot of great information over at our website, planstronger.com. We've got videos, we've got old radio shows, and we've got a lot of timely stuff there that people can get some good information, of course, information about the books, and the books are also available on Amazon.com. So we appreciate the opportunity to be with you, Doug, and it's always a pleasure, and I know that we'll do it again.
All right, we will put a link to that at the show notes of today's show at goldsteinongelt.com, and I can certainly tell you that people who listen to the archives of the radio show will be happy to hear other conversations that David and I had in the very, very recent past. David Holland, thanks so much for your time.
Thank you, Doug. Appreciate it.
You are listening to the Goldstein on Gelt Show with money maven Doug Goldstein. Doug's weekly radio show is heard around the world, but if you miss it, you can download the podcast at www.goldsteinongelt.com. The Goldstein on Gelt Show gives you up-to-date financial ideas so you can get on the path to financial freedom. If you'd like your questions answered on the air or off, send Doug an email to doug@profile-financial.com. It's your money for your future, so join Doug every week to build your wealth on the Goldstein on Gelt Show.